you mentioned a patent, and I'm curious if that was a business process patent. I've heard sort of mixed reviews of how effective those things are. Could you dig just a little bit into that whole thing? I'm wondering if at the end of it, if you guys were if that was a decision you were glad that you'd made, or if that might have been turned out to have been a distraction.
Well, I think they're doing a lot more now, right? In fact, in the I once made a joke when we were at a meeting with Dan, and which I've realized was actually would have been a really great idea. That what we should have done is hired a patent attorney to follow Dan around everywhere he went, and figure out which of his ideas that could be patented and actually patent them. And so it's there's several. We have I don't know. I don't know. Again, I'm not nothing about Securrency. I'm not on the board anymore. I'm not an employee. I'm not anything. I just have kind of outside information. I'm a shareholder, and so but they have several patents. They have several more, I think, in the works, and it's really I think in the end the company, if I had to speculate purely my own thought process, much of the value of the company over time will be in those patents and such, because we were really early. We wrote some patents, which I had never done before, and oh my God, if I had a choice between being a patent attorney and slitting my wrists and slipping into a warm bath, it would be the latter, right? I mean, what a grind of a job, but they, it's just very tedious. And so, but they keep slogging along with it. I don't know if there's someone who's helping, but I think there's several underway. I just have no idea what they are nowadays. But in the beginning, it was the concept around how to ensure that whenever you transfer like a stock, think of these electronic instruments as a stock, but an electronic version of a stock, how to transfer those between people anywhere in the world, which, the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ might be the ones who are, usually the intermediary. Whenever you don't have them in between, how do you make sure that these transfers happen legally? If I had to simplify, that's really what it is. That's a simple explanation. The complexity of the technology behind that is immense. And it's, and we wrote a patent for it. So if anyone else comes in and says, that they had done that, then it's like, no, here it is. Here's our patent. We applied. And, but yeah, to your point, Jason, when you're doing it, you're wondering the same thing. Like, are we just wasting our time here with this, right? Could we ever defend this? I mean, seriously, if Goldman Sachs wants to challenge our patent, what are we going to do?
Right. At the time, so these actually did fall to the level of technology rather than business process.
Both. Yeah. And so, you can't patent software itself, the actual code lines, right? And such. And that I don't think you can. But in terms of the concepts of things, and then it gives us a defense, right? So now if the company, say a few years from now, the company is much more well capitalized. I mean, it's relatively well capitalized, but I mean, the people we're really challenging in this market are people where, they don't have a shortage of money. I mean, the money that they could put to something like this, and so would be immense. And what I'm hoping, one of those companies will come along and say, hey, we're behind on this technology. We'll just pick you guys up, and we'll catch up by buying this company. That's what I've always assumed will end up happening. But again, I have no idea what will be the eventual exit of the company.
I agree, Ron. This is Bill Watkins. I built my company on several patents, and what I learned over time was it's not the cost of the patent that is the consideration. It's the defense of the patent, if you ever have to defend it, which is, I don't know, 5, 10, 100 times more than whatever it costs to get. And that can become really nasty.
Yeah, and the costs up front are really your time, lots of times. And in our case, it was extracting the content out of Dan's head.
Yeah.
And doing it in a way where regular folks could understand it, right? So John and I were maybe more the regular folks when Dan was the mad genius sort of thing. And like, how do we get the information out of that complex head into something that we can, because the thing about a patent, you got to write it down, right? In words, which, sounds silly to say, but you've got to articulate what it is you are saying in words, so that when you send it to someone in the patent office, they can read it and they have some idea of what you're talking about. And they have experts on different, different industries and categories and things they can go to. But if they can't understand it, I don't know. I would guess you're not going to get a patent.
My concept of I'm sorry to sort of to derail us into a discussion of patents, but this is interesting to me. My concept of this is that a patent is really something of a deterrent, right? I mean, it's a proactive defense against competition. You're not going to, or is it also an asset? It's something that you can sell, I guess, as well, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
No, it's definitely
both.
an asset.
Yeah, there's a business here where I live in Puerto Rico. There's a guy, a kid. He's not a kid. He's in his 20s. He was raised. He was a kid when he was lived here. So he these foils that float above the water, where there's like a hydrofoil in the water, and then you kind of float above the water, and it's an electric motor. But this guy makes, I don't know how many times as much money off enforcing his patents, because people see this thing and they're like, oh, I'll go build one of those and I'll start a company and I'll do it. And as soon as they do, he's got lawyers and they whack him right over the head. And they say, you guys owe us royalties, blah, 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 blah. There's no question that he created it. He's had the patents from the beginning. That's how he makes his money.